Hello and welcome to Alternating Creative Intellectuality. I'm Charlie Keeble and today I'm going to talk to you about my reasons for supporting Shaun Bailey. Last year the London Mayor and Greater London Assembly elections were supposed to have taken place, but due to the pandemic, as we all retreated into our homes to stay away from COVID-19, the elections got postponed for the year, and thankfully they did within good reason, because otherwise people would have turned up at the ballot boxes only to probably drop dead in a matter of months later. But now here we are in the present day in 2021. Sadiq Khan might have served an extra year as London Mayor, but things really have changed, not entirely for the better. Right, now let's start with Shaun Bailey, my reasons for supporting him. Well, I campaigned for him a couple of years ago, pre-pandemic, and I got to meet him and talk to him. He's a really nice guy, and his background is, just the kind of thing needed for a fresh start for London. Shaun has, let's take a look at one of the things that London has been struggling with in pain and despair for the last 5 years. Crime has rocketed out of control. And in particular here where I live in Havering, where our local police force has amalgamated with Barking and Dagenham and Rainham as in a matter of cutbacks for Sadiq Khan to prioritise inner London and for his own vanity projects. Shaun, being a youth worker, understands and knows the kinds of things that the youth of today need. He's worked in it for 20 years and intends to open up around 38 police stations, reopen closed under Khan, and hiring 8,000 more police officers to help the youth of today, youngsters and young Londoners get ahead in life without having to resort to crime. He's going to open at least one youth centre across all of the London boroughs, 32 of them, and hire 4,000 new youth workers. And that's one of my reasons. I do have my own personal wants and needs as a Londoner, and here is my expectations of him. Fixing TfL's finances to get London moving again. Now, when Boris Johnson left office in 2016, I was looking forward to the opening of the Crossrail project, now soon to be called the Elizabeth Line, in December 2018. Sadly, however, due to Khan's financial mismanagement and his wastage on giving the money to special perks for TfL staff, the TfL has effectively been bankrupted and has had to be bailed out twice by the central government. I want to see Crossrail completed and to get a chance to travel from here in Romford all the way to Reading in a matter of just over an hour. It's quite a unique idea to be able to have a mainline railway network running under London, especially whereas the tube services in London have suffered from overwhelming, crowded, cramped carriages, in particular the Central Line, which, as we know, is just about the only effective and useful train line running under London. But over the years, the number of tourists and visitors working in London has gradually increased by so many that this railway line that was built over 100 years ago for hundreds of passengers an hour now has to cope with around thousands of passengers, up to 1,000 passengers an hour. By having an underground mainline rail network like Crossrail, we can ease the pressure off the tube and get more Londoners moving. Oh, and of course, talking of which, there's the congestion charge hike, which Khan only created just to try and plug the hole in TfL's finances. It's time for that to go. You don't get London economically active by putting taxes and more money-grabbing schemes on the citizens as such. Because that just drives them out of pocket and makes them not want to work in London. When I was a young job seeker, I had to turn down a number of jobs in central London because the cost of travelling in and out of London was so much that it would have taken up around over 40% of my wages. Which is one of the reasons why I struggled to get ahead in life when I was young. And as if that weren't enough, over the last Labour mayorships, much of a lot of business in the outer boroughs, specifically here in Havering, have stagnated due to prioritisation of economic growth in central London over the outer boroughs, which in turn has shortchanged the outer boroughs, crippling them with no financial business support, and living out here in the outer suburbs is being treated like it's reduced the outer suburbs like Havering and Redbridge like outliers of the capital. Now, let's move on to another thing. Oh yes, accelerating London's services to make it a haven for Brexit Britain. In the intervening time, during Sadiq Khan's mayorship, Britain voted to leave the European Union. And I, as a Brexiteer, was very happy with the result, and I'm glad to say that this city can become like an economic hub of Brexit Britain, which can become like Singapore-on-Thames, a subject which I've already written about on my blog on ac.co.uk. Please go there and subscribe for to read all my adventures and what I can. The kind of activism that I do for autistic conservatives, supporting their aspirations for self-determination and for their civil rights. Now, because Sadiq Khan, as you probably know, sided with the Remainers, and in doing so, he also abused his position of power to undermine Britain's potential, and in particular London's potential, to become like a shining beacon of investment and an investment to create an emerging new market now that Britain would be open to the wider world, free from the shackles of European federalism. Instead, he actively promoted and permitted countless protests and ways in which to undermine Brexit by making them as weak as making the Brexit transition period as weak as possible, aiding the rest of the metropolitan elite in central London, and undermining the well-being and economic prosperity of the city where Brexit could benefit them, specifically here in Romford, which was the most Eurosceptic area of Britain. We have a large active market town here, which is crying out for liberty and economic development that could turn it into a large, prosperous nation. There's a lot of Commonwealth citizens living here in Havering, demanding a lot of more economic benefits and several other advances that can come from Brexit, like trading and developing with the African nations of the Commonwealth. I myself work in this field as a research assistant for Africa House London, a trading agency that supports business relations between the UK and Africa. and I've seen a lot of potential that can lead to cooperative markets in Nigeria selling their produce abroad over here to Britain to create bridges to development between African nations and Brexit Britain. We could take in cooperative farmers' beverages from Nigeria, fruit and vegetables from Ghana, IT services from South Africa, and import and enrich offload produce from Kenya and Ethiopia to bring them to the world ports of London. And that is a really good aim to go for. Oh, and on the subject of that, one thing that I'm also hoping for Sean to do is to work constructively with the government, which is in his pledges. Unlike Khan, who actively ran London almost like a city-state enclave from the rest of Britain, constantly blaming the central government for all his woes, Sean takes his responsibilities to heart. Anything that falls on his watch, he takes it upon himself to fix it. And I should know, because I've worked with him in his capacity in my capacity as a conservative activist, and I've seen what ambitions he hopes to achieve, and I've even seen Sean work as as a GLA member during the time of that he's been a member of the London Assembly. Where else do we go? There's a lot of other things. Pardon me for not being all that talkative. I don't really do well without a script. I'm not like a Labour autistic activist who is most obviously often not used as a prop by them to push their own diversity agenda. And of course shortchanging disability activists to use them for their own shortchanging disability activists. Now, on the subject of disability activism, I've spoken with Sean about my ambitions to open up London to autistic people. I've collaborated and spoken with Andrew Boff and Sean on their plans to make London an autism-friendly city. And also with Keith Prince, who is also my GLA member for Havering and Redbridge. We've got on really well, and as I've demonstrated during this pandemic, the amount of potential that disabled people can achieve will benefit from the amount of work and economic opportunities that will come from Brexit for London. Now, I am a home-based worker, and I've found a lot of useful applications of home-based working, not just for disabled people, but also for bringing in business for London. Working from home has a lot of benefits for disabled workers. It keeps them in employment, and it shows their usefulness to London and to the country, without having to be shafted onto the sidelines of the welfare system. It is there are many other things that I could talk to you about my support for Sean Bailey, so I'll save them for another video come nearer the time. But until then, I hope you will support Sean Bailey, and as my motto goes, my autistic conservative objective, autistic conservatives support aspirational Aspies. So, May the 5th, go out, and if you want a fresh start for London, vote Sean Bailey. My name is Charlie Keeble, autistic conservative with aspirations for greater for the greatness and goodness of autism in Britain.